Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, chapter number 23, titled Devahuti's Lamentation, text number 17. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tatra Tatra Vinikshipta. Tatra Tatra Vinikshipta. Nana Silpo Pasobitam. Nana Silpo Pasobitam. Mahamara Katastalya. Mahamara Katastalya. Justam Vidruma Vedibi. Justam Vidruma Vedibi. Tatra Tatra Vinikshipta. Nana Silpo Pasobitam. Mahamara Katastalya. Justam Vidruma Vedibi. Tatra Tatra Vinikshipta. Nana Silpo Pasobitam. Mahamara Katastalya. Justam Vidruma Vedibi. Tatra Tatra Vinikshipta. Nana Silpo Pasobitam. Mahamara Katastalya. Justam Vidruma Vedibi. Pasobitam. Mahamara Katastalya. Justam Vidruma Vedibi. Matajis? Tatra Tatra Vinikshipta. Nana Silpo Pasobitam. Mahamara Katastalya. Justam Vidruma Vedibi. Word for word translation. Tatra Tatra. Here and there. Vinikshipta. Placed. Nana. Various. Silpa. By artistic engravings. Upasobitam. Extraordinarily beautiful. Mahamarakata. Of great emeralds. Stalya. With a floor. Justam. Furnished. Vidruma. Of coral. Vedibi. With raised platforms. Daisies. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Its beauty was enhanced by artistic engravings here and there on the walls. The floor was of emerald with coral daisies. Purport. At the present moment, people are very proud of their architectural art. Yet floors are generally decorated with colored cement. It appears, however, that the castle constructed by the yogic powers of Kadwa Muni had floors of emeralds with coral daisies. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshul Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So thank you all for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class today. So currently we're discussing from the third canto, chapter 23, titled Devahuti's Lamentation. And in these verses we're discussing at the moment, we're hearing descriptions about the beautiful castle constructed by Kadama Muni. And using his mystic power, his yogic power, Kadama Muni has created a wonderful, very opulent castle. And this castle is kind of like a flying airship also. So it's like a castle in the air, and you can fly anywhere in the universe. We'll see in the coming verses how Kadama Muni and Devahuti, they get into this castle and they start flying and traveling all around the universe. So these verses of Bhagavatam are describing the opulence and the beauty of this castle created by Kadama Muni's yoga power. And Prabhupada in his purport is explaining how currently people in our modern civilization, they're very proud, thinking that, this is the very advanced civilization. And humanity has advanced so much in so many different levels, through technology, art, this and so on and so forth. But Prabhupada is actually explaining that if we study Srimad Bhagavatam and the Shastras, we can understand that not only in the previous ages was humanity more advanced spiritually, but even materially, human society was much more advanced in the previous ages. But Prabhupada is explaining the purport. Unfortunately, being blinded by ignorance, the people of our modern civilization, they're very proud, thinking that we are the advanced civilization. Humanity, in the past, we were just monkeys or apes, and then slowly, we had the caveman, and then slowly, we have evolved. But actually, when we study Srimad Bhagavatam, we understand that the people who lived on this planet thousands and millions and billions of years ago, not only were they spiritually more advanced, not only were they spiritually more conscious and elevated, but even materially speaking, they were much more advanced. For example, Prabhupada, in one of the previous purports, he was explaining that how in the previous ages, they also had skyscrapers, just like we do. And Prabhupada's explaining about the opulence of these palaces, these skyscrapers in the previous yugas, how our current buildings, which are so much, people are proud of, they're made out of, Prabhupada's explaining, just out of cement or concrete and steel. But Prabhupada's explaining in these beautiful palaces and homes that people were living in the previous ages, they weren't just made out of bricks or cement or concrete or just steel, but they were very nicely and opulently decorated with all sorts of different jewels like emeralds, gold, silver, so on and so forth. Just like recently we had Kartik Mas, and in some of the pastimes of baby Krishna, there is the acharyas, they explain how Vrindavan, although it's just a cowherd village, and our idea of a cowherd village, is just some forest, and everything will be very austere. The houses will be just made out of wood, and it'll just be like a very simple little village. But actually, the acharyas, they give description of Vrindavan, how Vrindavan, like the palace or the house of Nanda Maharaj, who is the king of Vraja, is actually very, very opulently decorated and constructed. For example, all the pillars in Nanda Maharaj's house, they're all made out of different jewels. Just like we have these pillars in our temple, in the same way Nanda Maharaj in his house, there's different pillars. But unlike the pillars we have in our, so-called advanced civilization at the moment, made out of just concrete, these pillars in Nanda Maharaj's house, they'll be decorated with all sorts of different jewels. And these jewels will be so brilliant that one can see one's own reflection in these pillars. So that's how, perfectly constructed these pillars were. They will be perfectly constructed with so many different jewels, and when you actually look at the pillar, you can see your own reflection in all the pillars in the house. So one time, Krishna, being a naughty little child, he was stealing butter in his own house. And while Mother Yasoda, she's off doing some other household chores, one day he comes and he starts stealing and eating some butter in his own house. And as he is about to eat, he sees his own reflection in the pillar in his house. And again, the pillar is all made out of jewels, so he can see his own reflection in the pillar. So as he is stealing the butter, he sees his own reflection. But because he's just an innocent little child, he can't understand he's seeing his own reflection. He thinks the person in the pillar is another cowherd boy. So then he becomes very worried. This other Gopa, he's watching me eat, he will go and complain to Mother Yasoda that Krishna is stealing butter in your house. So then Krishna, he becomes very scared. And then Krishna, he starts talking to his own reflection, which he is seeing in the pillar. He starts telling his reflection that, okay, we'll have a truce. Don't complain to Mother Yasoda that I'm stealing butter. What we'll do, we'll half-half. You take half the butter, I will take half the butter, but you don't complain to Mother Yasoda. When Mother Yasoda comes, you don't dob me in, don't say I stole the butter. You can take half the butter, I'll also take half the butter. Like this, Krishna was talking to his own reflection, which he was seeing in the pillar. Now, while all this is happening, Mother Yasoda, she is nearby, and she's also watching all this fun, from the corner of the house, she's watching all this. And then Mother Yasoda, suddenly she comes into the room. Then Krishna, he becomes very afraid, and then Krishna, he points his finger towards the pillar, to where he's seeing his reflection, and he starts complaining to Mother Yasoda. It's not what you think, it's not what you think. I wasn't stealing butter, it's actually him. He is the one who was stealing the butter. I told him don't do it, I told him don't do it. I told him Mother Yasoda will be very angry. Why did you steal, why did you steal? But he didn't listen and he's stealing. It's not me. Like this Krishna, he starts complaining to Mother Yasoda, pointing at his own reflection, which he's seeing in the pillar. Then Mother Yasoda said, okay, I will chastise that cowherd boy. Next time he won't come to my house and steal. And Mother Yasoda, she gives Krishna a big hug. So like this, we hear descriptions in the Shastras of how in the previous ages, the buildings, the houses, the palaces, they're all made out of not just cement and concrete, but different jewels like emeralds, silver, gold, so on and so forth. And other purports, Prabhupada explains that the jewelry that the citizens of society they used to wear would all be real gold, real silver. Prabhupada says, nowadays, if we look in human society, no one can afford, silver or real golden jewelry. Most ladies, Prabhupada explains, they'll wear like plastic, mangoes, and even the jewels they wear, earrings or so forth. It won't be real gold or diamond. Only those who are very rich, they can wear or afford to wear. But Prabhupada explains in previous ages, the opulence was so much, everyone, any common lady, she would all have, real golden jewelry all around her body. Diamonds, rubies, so on and so forth. So not only were their houses, palaces made out of jewels, but everyone, male and female, they'll be decorated with golden ornaments, diamonds, rubies, so on and so forth. But now we see it's such a rare thing to see such things. So not only spiritually speaking was human society much more advanced in previous ages, but Prabhupada explains even materially speaking, people were much more advanced in the previous ages. There is not much to discuss in this verse. I will go to the next verse. Text number 18. Dvasu vidruma dehalya bhatam vajra kapatavat sikharesu indra nilesu hema kumbher adhishritam. The palace was very beautiful with its coral thresholds at the entrances and its doors bedecked with diamonds. Gold pinnacles crowned its domes of sapphire. So further descriptions of the palace is given. It is said the doors were decorated with diamonds. So the actual door to the palace, all the different doors, they had diamonds all around the door. Has anyone seen a door in real life made, with diamonds on the door? No, it's maybe there's no such thing in the whole world. But this was a common thing in previous ages. All these kingly palaces and houses, it was just common to have gold everywhere, have diamonds everywhere, rubies everywhere, emeralds everywhere. So much opulence. And the domes, the pinnacles of the domes were made of gold and sapphire. Even it's given, like if we read Krishna Lila, what to speak of the houses being decorated with jewels, or the human beings, having jewels around their body. But even the animals, they were decorated with jewels also. Like in Krishna Lila, when we read Krishna book, we can hear descriptions of how all the cows of Vrindavan, they would be decorated with different jewels also. The cows would wear garlands, because cow is worshipful. Cow is, our mother, one of our 7 mothers. So when we read Krishna book, we hear descriptions how the cows will be garlanded. The cows would also be wearing, golden necklaces. The cows will, the hoofs of the, the horns of the cows or the bulls, they will be plated with gold or plated with silver. Like this, even the cows would be decorated with golden and silver ornaments and worshipped in such a way. So much opulence they had in the previous ages. And how did this opulence come out? Prabhupada explains, because in previous ages, everyone was very spiritual in nature. Everyone was very religious and worshipping the Supreme Lord. So Mother Earth, she's the consort of Krishna. She's an expansion of Mother Lakshmi. So when Mother Earth, she sees that human society is worshipping the Supreme Lord, then naturally being very pleased and happy, she provides human society. She provides the humanity with all jewels and opulence, so on and so forth. But Prabhupada explains now, because of the atheistic civilization we're living in, Mother Earth, she's restraining all of her resources. And that's why we don't have such abundance of different jewels and these natural opulences that we're seeing in Bhagavatam. During the reign of great kings like Maharaj Parikshit, Maharaj Yudhishthira, Prithu Maharaj, so on and so forth, we see how Mother Earth, she was naturally supplying all the necessities of life. When Prithu Maharaj, he came to rule the world in 4th canto, it's given that at that time, the agriculture wasn't going so well. The crops weren't coming up, and Mother Earth, she was restraining all of her opulences. And then Prithu Maharaj, he went and he challenged Mother Earth, why is it you're not giving grains? Why is it you're not giving food, flowers, so on and so forth? And Mother Earth, she was explaining how, because due to the previous king of all of his sinful activities, all the sinful deeds he was doing, that's why I'm restraining all of the natural necessities of life. And then Prithu Maharaj says, okay, that's previously, but now I am here. All the citizens are working nicely. Now you have to give. And then Mother Earth, she starts supplying. So based on the consciousness of human society that is on the planet, based on that, Mother Earth, she will give or provide all the necessities of life. If the society is very atheistic, demoniac, then Mother Earth, she will restrain all of her supplies. So in this way, Prabhupada explains in his purports of Bhagavatam. Go to text 19, there's no purport to 18. Chaksusmat padma ragagriye vajrabhite su nirmite justam vichitra vaitaner mahar he matorane. With the choicest rubies set in its diamond walls, it appeared as though possessed of eyes. It was furnished with wonderful canopies and greatly valuable gates of gold. So now it's given that the walls of this palace were made out of diamonds. Not, concrete wall with some diamonds inside the wall, but the whole walls were made out of diamonds. Can you imagine a whole wall just made out of diamonds? And in these walls made out of diamonds, there were little rubies which were put in different places of these diamond walls. And these rubies were placed in such a way, in these diamond walls, it looked like there was a wall with many eyes. So the rubies, they were like eyes. So when you look at the wall, you see like a nice shining diamond wall with different rubies around the wall. And it'll look like a wall with many different red eyes. So it looked very beautiful. And then along with that, they were furnished wonderful canopies and greatly decorated valuable gates of gold. So different gates to this palace were all made out of pure gold. Purport. Artistic jewelry and decorations giving the appearance of eyes are not imaginary. Even in recent times, the Mughal emperors constructed their palaces with decorations of jeweled birds with eyes, made of valuable stones. The stones have been taken away by the authorities, but the decorations are still present in some of the castles constructed by the Mughal emperors in New Delhi. The royal palaces were built with jewels and rare stones resembling eyes, and thus at night they would give off reflective light without need of lamps. So Prabhupada's explaining that even in more recent times, we can get a glimpse of Vedic culture. And Prabhupada is referring to some palaces that even we can see now around New Delhi, created by the Mughal emperors. And Prabhupada is explaining how in these palaces, we can even see now in New Delhi, we will see how there will be decorations of jeweled birds with eyes made of valuable stones. So there'll be different engravings in the walls of like different birds, and the artists or the persons who constructed this palace, they would put jewels in the place where the eyes of the birds would be. So like this, even in recent times, Prabhupada is explaining, the emperors around New Delhi, even they were using jewels in the walls, so on and so forth. And Prabhupada is explaining that in these royal palaces, in the previous ages, the walls and the rooms, they will be decorated with so many different jewels that at night there wouldn't be any need of, external light. The jewels itself will give off light actually. But there's no need of having, electrical lights to turn on at night. Prabhupada is writing here, the royal palaces were built with jewels and rare stones, resembling eyes, and thus at night they would give off reflective light without need of lamps. So these different jewels, they would reflect so much light that there wouldn't even be need of any, electrical lights at nighttime. We hear even in the lower planetary systems, it's given in 5th canto. If we go into the crust of Bhumandala, the lower planetary systems, which is all underground. So the question comes up, okay, if all these planetary systems are underground, how is it illuminated? Because the sun can't go underground, the light of the sun and the moon. So it's given in 5th canto that in the lower planetary system there are these certain living entities called as Nagas, and these divine snakes or celestial snakes. And these snakes, they have jewels on their hoods. And these jewels that these snakes have on their hoods, they give up so much light that they illuminate the entire planetary system. So for our planetary system, where we're living in, the world is illuminated by the light of the sun. But in the lower planetary systems, which is underground, the sun rays can't go inside because it's underground. So how are these lower planetary systems illuminated? They're simply illuminated by the jewels, which is on top of the hoods of these celestial snakes. So it's hard to conceive of, such jewels, but that's the description given in Srimad Bhagavatam. So these aren't any ordinary jewels that we're hearing of in Bhagavatam. So much opulence they had. There's one description giving. So we talked about the walls and gates and doors being decorated, the pillars being made out of beautiful jewels, but even the floors, they will be made out of first-class jewels, marble, so on and so forth. So much so, just like you could see your own reflection in the pillars of these palaces, you could see also your own reflection in the floors of these palaces. Like for us, we have marble floor, but if we look into the marble floor, we can't see our own reflection. We can just see our shadow. That's the best. We can't see our own reflection. But there's descriptions given how one time Krishna in Dwarka, he's just sitting, relaxing, and he just looks at the floor, the shining floor in his palace in Dwarka. And when he looks at the floor, he sees his own reflection in the floor. And when Krishna, he sees his own reflection in the floor, he thinks, who is this handsome person? So beautiful. I've never seen anyone so beautiful like this. Krishna, he himself, is mesmerized by his own beauty. And being captivated by his own beauty, Krishna is so beautiful that he attracts even himself. So Krishna gets so mesmerized by his own beauty, which he is seeing in the floor of his palace in Dwarka, that he starts thinking, I want to enjoy this beauty, I want to relish this beauty, just like the queens and Srimati Radharani is enjoying. So that's given as one of the reasons why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or Krishna comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to experience the same bliss that the gopis or the queens of the gopis in Vrindavan or the queens of Dwarka are experiencing. When the gopis, they see Krishna transcendental form with their eyes, they feel great transcendental ecstasy, seeing the wonderful, beautiful darshan of Krishna. So Krishna is thinking, these gopis, they're experiencing so much transcendental ecstasy by taking darshan of me. I want to also experience that same ecstasy the gopis are getting when they see me, when they take darshan of me. But how can I do that? I can't do that while being Krishna himself. I have to take another body. So that's why Krishna comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to taste his own beauty, to taste what the gopis are experiencing. It's given that in the relationship between Krishna and his devotees, the Krishna, he feels great bliss and joy when he's being served by his devotees. But it's given that the bliss or the transcendental ecstasy that his pure devotees feel, like the gopis, when they serve Krishna, is millions of times more than the bliss that Krishna is feeling. So although Krishna is God, although Krishna is the Supreme Personal Godhead, Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that the bliss that Krishna's pure devotees, like the gopis, feel is is millions of times more than the bliss that Krishna himself feels. So that's another reason why Krishna comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is thinking, I am the Supreme Lord, I am supposed to be the Supreme Enjoyer. If I am the Supreme Enjoyer, I should be experiencing the topmost happiness. But my pure devotees, like the gopis, the happiness they're experiencing by coming in contact with me is millions of times more than the happiness I'm experiencing. So if I want to be really the true enjoyer, if I really want to be the topmost enjoyer, then I have to take their position, so I can also feel that transcendental happiness which they're experiencing. So that's why Krishna comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the mood of Srimati Radharani, the topmost gopi, or the topmost devotee of the Lord. So he can also experience the transcendental happiness that the gopis of Vrindavan are experiencing. Specifically, that Srimati Radharani is experiencing. So in this way, all these palaces that we see in Vedic culture, these houses, everywhere you look will just be so much opulence. The floors will be made out of jewels, the walls will be made out of jewels, the pillars, the gates, the canopies, the windows, everything. So in this way, Prabhupada explains, not only spiritually but materially, so much more advanced were the previous ages actually, compared to which, the current modern society we're living in, we're nothing. We're actually so much backwards, both spiritually and materially. Even in terms of transportation, Prabhupada explains, nowadays to go from one place to another, we have airplanes. But Prabhupada explains these airplanes, what is the reliability, Every year we hear so many news of different airplanes in different parts of the world crashing. And, these airplanes, they give off so much pollution, right? Causing global warming. The cars we ride in, they cause so much pollution. The cruise ships we go in, they cause so much pollution to an environment. And they're unreliable. Every year there are thousands of car crashes in all the different cities around the world. So many people, they die in car crashes, airplane crashes, so on and so forth. So not only with these current modern transportation systems are we polluting the various environment we're living in, causing global warming, but actually also it's so unreliable that every year thousands of people all around the world, they die. And on the other hand, Prabhupada is explaining these Vedic transportation systems described in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's no instance of them crashing into each other. And there's no instance or descriptions given of them giving out, pollution and polluting the environment. So not only were they, in sync with the environment, but they were so much more reliable. And Prabhupada explains that no ugrakrama, not much hard work was required to create these things. For example, to create a big airplane, hundreds of factory workers, so many different ingredients are needed to build just one airplane. But these Vedic airplane systems, they were just created by mantras, not by, some tools, machines, so on and so forth, but just by the power of mantras. In Vedic civilization, they were able to create these wonderful airplanes. Okay, we'll go to the next verse, text number 20. Hamsa paravata vrates tatra tatra nikujitam kritiman manyamane swan adiruyacha. Translation: here and there in that palace were multitudes of live swans and pigeons, as well as artificial swans and pigeons, so lifelike that the real swans rose above them again and again, thinking them live birds like themselves. Thus the palace vibrated with the sounds of these birds. So these palaces, they had some, it's not that everything was enclosed, but within the palace there were some open areas also. And in these open areas there were live swans, pigeons and other birds. And when these live swans, they would see lifelike swans, different paintings of swans and other birds in the palace. These decorations, they were so lifelike, the real swans, they would get confused. And they would think, this is also a live bird. So like this, the palace was surrounded by a lot of beautiful birds. And when one enters this palace, Bhagavatam is explaining, one could hear the sounds of all these beautiful birds. Text, there's no purport, we'll go next text number 21. Viharastana Vishrama Sambesa Prangana Jire Yato Pajo Samrachiter Vismapanam Ivatmanaha. The castle had pleasure grounds, resting chambers, bedrooms, and inner and outer yards, designed with an eye to comfort. All this caused astonishment to the sage himself. Purport: Kadma Muni, being a saintly person, was living in a humble hermitage. But when he saw the palace constructed by his yogic powers, which was full of resting rooms, rooms for sex enjoyment, and inner and outer yards, he himself was astonished. That is the way of a God-gifted person. A devotee like Kadma Muni exhibited such opulence by his yogic power at the request of his wife. But when the opulence was produced, he himself could not understand how such manifestations could be possible. When a yogi's power is exhibited, the yogi himself is sometimes astonished. So this is interesting. Prabhupada is explaining that all this time, Kadma Muni, he was just a simple rishi, saint living in a very humble hut in the forest. And now using his yogic power, he's created this wonderful flying palace. And this flying palace Kadma Muni has constructed was so amazing that even he himself was astonished at the beauty and the opulence of this palace. Although he himself created it, he himself was astonished by his creation. And Prabhupada is explaining in the purport that this is the way of a God-gifted person. That sometimes devotees, they do a particular service, they do a particular activity, and when they're doing this particular service activity, they're being empowered by Krishna. And being empowered by Krishna, they're able to do something wonderful. And Prabhupada is saying, when devotees, they do something wonderful, they understand that actually this is all coming from Krishna's mercy, Krishna's opulence. And sometimes devotees, they do such amazing things that even they themselves can't believe it. Did I actually do this? Was it me that actually did this? How did I do this? Ordinarily speaking, I can never do such a thing like this. Definitely, it is all Krishna's mercy. Definitely, I'm being empowered by Krishna and the blessings of the Vaishnavas. So in this way, a Vaishnava, he is supposed to have a very humble mood, a humble attitude, that he sees whatever Prabhupada explains, whatever success we have in our spiritual life or anything, we should always see Krishna's hand in that. We should always see that actually this success which I've attained is actually by the blessings of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath, by the blessings of the Vaishnavas. And we shouldn't become proud. As the saying goes, proud comes before the fall. So in Bhagavatam there are so many examples of great, great personalities who fell down because they got overcome by pride. It is said that Lord Jagannath, one of his names is Garbha Granjan. Garbha Granjan means one who smashes pride. So it is said that Lord Jagannath, although he is very merciful, it is said Lord Jagannath has, as we can see in the altar, Lord Jagannath, he has very, very big, big eyes. Like this big eyes. So why does he have such big eyes? Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj explains that Lord Jagannath, he has big eyes because with his big eyes, he's always looking to see the good qualities of all of his devotees. Although us, we might have so many faults, so many anarthas, Lord Jagannath, with his big eyes, even though we might be an ocean of faults, with his big eyes, he will try and find some small good quality in us. And he will exaggerate that good quality and give us full mercy. So this is the merciful mood of Lord Jagannath. He doesn't have big eyes to find fault, okay, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right. But the mood of God is, he's always trying to see the good in us. And even though the good quality we have is something very small, very insignificant, with his big eyes, Lord Jagannath, he can see that good quality. Although others might not be able to see it, with his big eyes, Lord Jagannath, he can notice even the smallest good quality we have. And he will expand it, he will exaggerate it, and tell Balaram Subhadramani that just see this devotee, he's so nice, so nicely, he cleans the temple every day. We should give him full mercy. So this is the mood of Lord Jagannath. He's always looking to give, looking for an excuse to give mercy to his devotees. Just like Uddhava, he says in 3rd canto, oh, how merciful is my dear Lord Krishna, how merciful is my Lord Jagannath. Putana, she came to poison my dear Lord. But my dear Lord, he's so magnanimous with his big eyes. Instead of seeing her coming to poison him with his big eyes, he's just noticing that she's dressed as a gopi, she's coming to feed me milk. She's doing the same service as Mother Yasoda. I will give her a position equal to that of Mother Yasoda in the spiritual world. Who can be more kind than my dear Krishna? Like this Uddhava, he glorifies the kindness or the compassion of Lord Jagannath in the 3rd canto of Bhagavatam. If someone is coming to kill us and poison us, murder us, naturally we'll have some ill feelings towards them, right? And we'll expect them, some action being taken against them, either they be sent to the police, so on and so forth. But Krishna, he is so merciful that he completely ignores, all the ill motives, ill intentions of Putana. Instead, somehow or other, he's still able to see some good in Putana. Thinking, oh, she's dressed as a gopi, she's feeding me milk. Oh, she's like my mother, I'll give her a position equal to that of my mother in the spiritual world. We can never conceive of the inconceivable mercy, compassion of Krishna. So this is the mood of Krishna or Lord Jagannath. So although on one hand, it's given that Lord Jagannath or Krishna, he is extremely merciful, extremely compassionate. On the other hand, it's given, there is one thing that Lord Jagannath, he can't tolerate, and that is pride. So on one hand, he's super merciful, super magnanimous. On the other hand, there is one thing Lord Jagannath hates and he can never tolerate, and that is pride in his devotees. So whenever Lord Jagannath, he sees any pride creeping up in his devotees, Lord Jagannath, he makes arrangements to cut down that devotee's pride. Just like we see in Krishna book, Indra. Lord Jagannath, he's saying, okay, my devotee Indra, he's done so much nice service for me, but unfortunately this demon of pride is creeping up in his heart. And this pride is not good for the spiritual well-being of my dear devotee Indra. So let me help my pure devotee or my devotee, and let me remove this demon of pride which is choking his devotion to me. So then we hear in Krishna book how Krishna, he arranges the whole Govardhan Leela to cut down cut down Indra's pride. So this is the mercy of Krishna actually, because pride is one of the Anathas that can completely, it is said, one of the symptoms of pride is that it completely blinds one. When one becomes overcome by pride and false prestige, Bhagavatam explains, one gets completely blinded by ignorance. And when one becomes blind, he can't see where he's going, what's he doing. So naturally he'll fall down, he'll slip, he'll hurt himself, he'll end up doing so many stupid things. So that's why Krishna, feeling compassionate on the devotee who is having pride, Krishna will arrange something to smash that pride of his devotee. Because as long as we're proud, it's as if being blind. We can't see what's actually happening in real existence, according to Bhagavatam. Anyone who's overcome by pride, he's a blind man. He can't see reality. One who is humble, he is actually seeing. That is the lessons of Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this way, Prabhupada is explaining that Kadama Muni, he was a humble Vaishnava, humble devotee, and all his life he was living in a very simple hut. Now by his yogic power, he has created this wonderful palace. And when he's seeing this palace created by his yoga power, he himself is astonished. Wow, did I really create it? How does this happen? Okay, it must be Krishna's mercy. Okay, Krishna somehow or other, by the powers he has bestowed upon me, this palace was created. So in this way, a devotee, he always sees Krishna's hand in everything that's happening in his life. One definition of surrender is, like many times we hear, right, that we have to surrender unto Krishna. And that is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, right? Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam raja. That abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. That is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. So what does it actually mean to surrender unto Krishna? So one definition of surrendering unto Krishna is, surrendering unto Krishna means we see Krishna's hand in every single thing that is happening in our life. That is one nice way we can cultivate surrender. So surrendering unto Krishna means we see Krishna's hand in every single thing that is happening in our life. Not just the good things, but even the bad things. So whenever anything good happens in our life, we should see Krishna's hand in that. Oh, okay, this good thing that's happening in my life is all by the grace of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. Actually, Prabhupada explains, we should think that actually this good thing that's happening to me, I don't deserve it, because I'm such a sinful follower and rascal, I have no good qualities. I don't deserve this good thing to happen to me. But Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, they're so nice, they're bestowing this nice thing upon me. So in this way, when anything good happens in our life, we see Radha Gopinath's hand in that, and we see, okay, this is the blessings of the Supreme Lord. Not only that, remember, surrender unto Krishna means seeing Krishna's hand in every single thing that happens in our life. Not just the good things, but even the bad things, we should see Krishna's hand. So when the bad things happens, what should we think? Prabhupada explains this nice verse in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. In the purport of this verse, Prabhupada is explaining all this. So Prabhupada explains, whenever anything bad happens in our life, we should think that actually I have committed so many bad things in my life that I deserve something even much more worse than this. But Krishna, He's so kind, He has reduced my karma and He's just given me a token, bad reaction, bad karma. So in this way, a devotee, even in negative thing that's happening in his life, he's still seeing Krishna's hand in that and he's still thanking Krishna for that. Prabhupada gives the example, just like, say we get a small cut in our finger, like a paper cut or something. Or we're chopping vegetables and we accidentally cut one of our fingers, we put a band-aid around it. Then Prabhupada explains, when that cut happens, we should thank Krishna. That thank you Krishna, actually due to my so many crazy things I've done in the past, that actually probably due to my bad karma, today my whole hand is supposed to be chopped off. But you're so kind, you have saved me, from my whole hand for being chopped off. Instead, you've just given me a small token punishment, with just a small cut. Thank you for being merciful unto me. Thank you, Krishna. So in this way, a devotee, in good times and bad times, he is able to see Krishna's hand in it. And both in the good times and the bad times, he is always very grateful to Krishna in whatever is happening in his life. Every single thing that happens in his life, both the good and the bad, he sees everything as Krishna's mercy. So this is one definition of surrender. Surrender unto Krishna means we see Krishna's hand in every single thing that's happening in our lives, both the good and the bad, and we accept everything, we see everything as Krishna's mercy. If we can cultivate that mood, then that is as good as being fully surrendered onto Shri Shri Radha Gopinath's lotus feet. And we see that with the Pandavas. So many bad things happened in their lives. Not everything was hunky-dory. Everything, right throughout the, Prabhupada explains, right from their birth, till they left this planet, they had to go through so many hardships. So much so, when Bhishma Dev, he sees Maharaj Yudhishthira and the Pandavas on his deathbed, Bhishma Dev, he starts crying. Bhishma Dev is this great, strong warrior, the most powerful warrior on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But he is moved so much, he is thinking about how much hardships the Pandavas went through in their life that he himself starts choking up, he himself starts crying, feeling so much compassion for the Pandavas, thinking, these Pandavas, they're pure devotees of the Lord, how much suffering they had to go through in their lives. Thinking like this, Bhishma Dev, he himself, although he's such a great, mighty Kshatriya, he himself starts becoming very emotional. We read in first canto of Bhagavatam. So the Pandavas, right from the childhood, they had to go through so many ordeals. Even while they were little kids, Duryodhana and his brothers, they were always planning and plotting how to murder or assassinate them. Later on, their wife was insulted, they were banished to the forest, their kingdom was taken away, they were attacked with deadly weapons, their house was set on fire. So many different things happened in there. Negative things happened in their lives. But at no point do we hear the Pandavas complaining, oh God, why did you do this to me? We don't deserve this. We've been a good boy our whole life. What bad thing did we do? No, they always see everything as Krishna's mercy. Their devotion to Krishna never reduces. Rather, it's always increasing more and more. So in the same way, there will be good times in our life, there will be bad times. But regardless, we should use our intelligence to always see Krishna's hand. See Shri Shri Radha Gopinath's hand in everything that's happening in our life. And see everything as Krishna's mercy. And try and think and contemplate, why is this happening in my life? What is it that Shri Shri Radha Gopinath want me to learn from this situation, from this instance? And in this way, we can cultivate this mood of surrender. Okay, we're a bit over time, we'll stop here. Mantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, entire Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.